right, now pleased to welcome in LSU head coach Will Wade, who went portaling this past year and did it pretty well. Will, you're smiling because everybody was in the portal. Everybody's fighting for the same kids, and you lost a lot. You know, we'll talk about that. Obviously, you lost, three guys that went pro that averaged about 55 points a game. So you needed to go portaling, but it was a successful trip in the portal, was it not?
Yeah, man, it's a way of college basketball now. You got to sign really good freshmen and great transfers. And so, we knew going into the season that we were going to lose a lot of guys, and we tried to hit on what we could in recruiting, but we also knew that the changes were coming with the transfer portal, most likely, from what everybody was saying. And so there was no need to panic, and we needed to, sit back and see what was in the portal. And I thought our staff did a good job. We took basically three high major transfers. I look at the American as a high major league. And we took three high major transfers, guys that have produced, all of them have scored 8 or more points a game in a high major league. And so I felt like with everything that we lost, we needed guys that were pretty safe bets, pretty sure bets, to be very good players and productive players for us from day one. And that's what we were able to accomplish.
I mean, I love your backcourt. I do. I mean, listen, both of them are super talented. Pinson's played a ton of minutes. Adam Miller, top 50, 30 recruit coming out of high school, average, like you said, about 8 a game for a good Illinois team. How do you see them playing together? Is Miller going to have the ball some in his hands? Because I'd heard maybe you had thought about maybe playing him some at the point.
Well, we've always played two guards together. We played Javonte and Skylar together. We played Trendon Tremont and Javonte. We actually, at one point, we started Tremont, Skylar, and Javonte, all three together, basically 3-point guards. So we've always played multiple, kind of guards, scoring guards together. Pinson has been unbelievable. He's better than I thought. He's put on 16 pounds in the weight room. Sometimes when you just grow and mature, you grow up a little bit and things are better for you. And so I think that's happened to him here. And he's as good as I've seen it, being able to get down the seam and create rotation for the defense. He's a much better passer. He's a good shooter. And then Adam can just score it from every level, including just unbelievably deep threes. We're continuing to work on him with his decision making. He's a good decision maker. We want to continue to build on that. But yeah, he's gonna have the ball in his hands and be able to make plays, just like Pinson, just like Eric Gaines, who was back for us last year. He's made a big jump. We got a freshman, Brandon Murray, who a lot of people didn't know a whole lot about. He actually led all of prep school in scoring at IMG. He's from Baltimore. He went to Poly, then he did a prep year at IMG, and he's going to be a major factor for us. He's got a college-ready body. He plays every possession like it's the last possession of his life.
Really?
He plays extremely hard, and he's going to be able to help us at the 2 spot, at the 3 spot. He's going to be a big piece to our backcourt.
Well, I remember about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I think you said similar words to me about Cam Thomas. So I'll take your word on that one, because you were right on that one.
Cam was an easy one.
Right.
A blind man could have seen that one coming.
Yeah,
but
it was a no-brainer. No doubt. He can get buckets.
All I had to do was stay out of the way and not mess it up.
He was born to score, no doubt about it. The underrated transfer, like you said, you got 3, and everybody knows, I think, about Pinson and Adam Miller. They don't know as much about Tari Eason, and I think he's incredibly talented, so underrated. Tell people a little bit about Eason and what he'll bring to the team.
Well, the truth is, I didn't know about him until he went in the portal. And so we use an analytics company that runs numbers on people in the portal, basically. And it spits out like a rating between 1 and 100, like in a video game. Okay. And his rating came back as a borderline all SEC player. And I was like, who is this kid? I don't even know. And he's like an analytics dream with his offensive rebounding numbers and some of the other things that he does. And, I popped in the tape and started watching film. And I was like, oh, I fell in love with him. Watching him on tape, the number, what we saw on tape matched the numerics and the report that we got. And the report that we got on him, that was just figuring out, who do we know in Seattle that has any clue who this kid is, and how can we, how can we make contact with him? But and it just so happens one of our freshmen, Bradley Iswiro, and him lived together for 2 years in Los Angeles. It was the craziest, one of the craziest events that you could imagine. But I mean, he's a hard play, and he played the 5 at Cincinnati. And, we don't necessarily play a traditional 5. He's going to play more 4 for us and some 5, and he'll slide over to the 3. He'll be able to play multiple spots for us, but he plays extremely hard. He only shot 24% last year from 3. He's worked extremely hard on that. He's been very cognizant of getting in the gym and working on his shot. I think he's going to shoot, mid 30s, which is good. That'd be a nice bump this season. And he's somebody that's going to be a big contributor for us for sure.
All right. So those are the 3 proven guys. Obviously, Darius Days, by the way, the only guy I think returning on your team that averaged more than 4 points a game. So when you're looking at it,
how about this on Days? How about this now? How many actual true college seniors do you think there are? I don't know the answer to this, but true college seniors at the high major level that stayed at the same school for 4 years that are going to start. Like it's very, I told him, I said, you're like a unicorn. You're going to be the last, like there's not going to be many of you.
Oh, because nobody's happy.
Many of you left.
Either they're going to leave early for the pros, or they're
transferring,
malcontents, and they want something more than they've had for those 3 years. Right. I mean, that's just the way it's gone.
There's a lot about Days and his character and how he is, that he knows he needed to come back, and he made the best decision. And he's down to 230 pounds. He's in the best shape of his life. He looks tremendous. He's playing inside out. He's playing with the ball in his hands. He's been phenomenal.
So what's your biggest concern with this team?
Well, I mean, it's what our concern usually is, our defense and our rebounding. We've been very good offensively, elite offensively. I talk about our defensive rebounding every year. I think it's going to be improved. I got to quit talking about it. We got to do it. I do think this team, we've got more two-way players, Adam and X and Brandon Murray and Eason and Imwani Wilkinson, another kid who's back, who averaged 4 points a game for us. We've got guys that are more defensive minded, but we've got to shut up and just do it. And we got to quit talking about it. And really, the defense is one thing. It's the defensive rebounding. Our defense is actually, our first shot defense is actually solid.
Yeah.
But our defensive rebounding is a huge issue. And then just developing depth. I thought last year, obviously we had some really good top end players. But we were up in a lot of games with 5 and 6 minutes left, even against Michigan in the NCAA tournament. We just wore down because we played the same 6 guys basically the entire game. And, sometimes we would play a 7th, but we were basically playing 6 guys at the end of the year. We went to the SEC title game and we played our guards, our backcourt, Javonte and Cam played every minute of every game in that tournament. And so, it's just, we just wore down as the season went on. So we've got to, continue to shore up the defense and rebounding, and then get the depth where we need it to be. I'd like to play, 9 guys, 8 at a minimum this season, but we've got to get those guys ready to go.
I assume freshman Efton Reid will be one of those 8.
Oh, he'll be one of them. He's so skilled offensively. He's an extremely, extremely hard worker. He's so diligent. He eats like exactly what our dietitian tells him to eat. He eats that every day, and he's in here getting recovery.
Just like you, right? Aren't you doing the same thing? I
don't eat what the dietitian says. They say you can't outrun a bad diet. I'm like a perfect example of that. I run every day, but I eat so poorly you can't. I drink sweet tea so much you can't change that.
I'm with you.
But Efton, he just does everything that that's asked of him, and he's so conscious. He is as skilled offensive, a big guy. As you'll see, I always joke with him. He's like one of those European bigs.
Really?
And I mean that's what he's like. He can make threes. When you get it to him on the block and he's got space, his jump hook's going in every time. And so he's going to be a huge weapon, and really a piece that we haven't had. We've played really small ball the last 2 or 3 years. When we won the SEC 3 years ago, we were huge, and we need to get back to getting bigger. And contrary to everybody's belief, we don't get every recruit. And so we lost a couple kids the last couple years at the end that really hurt us in terms of not being able to play like we need to play. And so Efton's going to afford us the opportunity to do that.
So your record in league play the last 3 years is 38-14. 38-14. That's pretty damn good. The league's even better this year. It is a beast at the top half this year, is an absolute beast. What are realistic expectations for this team? Do you have any idea yet?
No, we go into every year. I look at it this: we got to be great in conference play, and we have been. We've had great teams, we've had great players, and we've won a lot of close games. My goal every year is to get the double bye in the SEC tournament. I think if we can finish, the whole key is just to build a consistent program, which we've started to do. And if you can get the double bye, which you're in the top 4 in the league, that's gonna give you the opportunity to have a great NCAA tournament seed, give you an opportunity to advance in the tournament, et cetera, et cetera. So really, I go into every year just how can we squeeze out enough to get in that top 4. We're actually the only team the last 3 years that has gotten the double bye all 3 years. We're the only program in the league that's done that. So that's really kind of how I start out. And then, you kind of see where you are midway through and say, all right, can we win the thing? What's our, what can we do at that point? But, the leagues, even the bottom of the league,
it's gotten better.
It's gotten a lot better, and it's gonna be tough. There's 8 or 9 teams I think that are all NCAA tournament. I told our team this the other day. I said, guys, we're good enough to finish first. We're good enough to finish 10th.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be.
And what is that, Will? Is that as much as anything? Is that chemistry? Because again, the talent level between 1 to 8 isn't that much. The disparity isn't that great. Is it more of obviously you stay healthy and chemistry and guys playing together?
I think it's health. I think part of it is the chemistry. It's part of it's just, do you have a guy that can get, 2 or 3 extra possessions a game that nobody else has? And so, do you have that on your team? And so, we've got some guys I'm trying out, just is there 2 or 3 offensive rebounds you can get a game that nobody else can get? That's ultimately what the margins are in this league. Do you have somebody that can make 2 or 3 plays a game? You're the only guy, you got that only dude on the court.
Right.
And so, in the wash of the game, most of the best players are going to even out, and then do you have an X factor who's your 5th, 6th, 7th guy that can make things happen? And, everybody.
Who's your X factor? Who are you hoping is your X factor? Again, we got
to find a 3-man that can do that. And we've got some great candidates. And Wani Wilkinson brings a lot to the table with athleticism and offensive rebounding. We got a freshman, Alex Fudge, who's long and athletic. He's young. He just turned 18 in May. But he is uber talented, and he can make some plays now. He can block some shots and make some plays. Like I said, we can move Brandon Murray to the 3. We've got Tari Eason, who we have a lot of options. But we just got to get in a rhythm with a couple of those guys that can grab 2 or 3 offensive rebounds, can grab 1 or 2 defensive rebounds. If it's Alex Fudge, can block 2 shots a game that nobody else can block. Can you have a guard that can steal, can just take an on-ball steal and get you 2 points? That sort of stuff. I think when you get to the margins and you get in these tight games, it all comes down to 4 to 6 points. 70% of the SEC 70% of conference games come down to 3 possessions or less. Wow. So what can you do to manipulate those 3 possessions and put yourself in the best spot?
All right. Well, listen, I'm gonna let you go so you can work on your defensive rebounding right now. See what you can do. Get out there and I don't know who you got to talk to, but you got to find somebody who can get that going this year.
We'll be improved. Of course, we have nowhere to go but up, so we will be improved. The question is just how improved can we be? So hopefully we'll be drastically improved and we'll be ready to go.
There you go. Will Wade, LSU head coach. Thanks for joining us here on the Field of 68. Appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me on.
Before we move on, Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up for Bet Rivers yet, now is the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, it's more secure, and it's more reliable. Now that basketball season is tipping off, get in on the action at betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while I got you here, let's talk about the Field of 68 Media Network, where college basketball matters most all year round. This is a digital media and podcast network that we've been building over the course of the last year. We have shows hosted by some of your favorite players covering the program that they love the most. AJ Guyton hosts the House of Hoosier. Eric Devendorf covers Syracuse on the scorer's table. Dan Dickow hosts the Gonzaga Bulldog broadcast. We have Florida's Patrick Young and Duke's Andre Dawkins and North Carolina's Shammond Williams and Michigan's Stu Douglas and Illinois' Deion Thomas. The list goes on and on and on. We have more than 30 shows right now. So hit the links below and check them all out. And while you're at it, make sure that you go check out the Field of 12 Media Network, your home for college football.
All right, that was LSU head coach Will Wade. And now we want to talk a little more about the Tigers, and who better to do that with two pros, two veteran pros, right? We got former LSU head coach John Brady, who coached LSU to the Final Four in what might have been my favorite team ever to cover, John. First of all, they were absolutely – nobody was more fun, nobody was more loose than that Tigers team with Big Baby, Tasman, they were just a blast. And we're also joined by Sheldon Mickles, Baton Rouge advocate, Hall of Famer, another veteran who knows the team well. And I know, Sheldon, you're on football duty too. So your basketball knowledge right now might not be at the level that football is, but I appreciate both of you guys joining me for this. And we'll have some fun breaking down this team and the program and where it's at. So thanks to both of you guys.
No problem. Glad to be here.
All right. I don't know who wants to start because this team is awfully hard to try to figure out right now, right? I mean, you're talking about, the top three guys all went to the NBA or trying to make the NBA. You got 6 more guys who transferred. So coming in, 3 transfers that are all going to make a big impact and 6 freshmen, I believe. So a lot of new faces. Sheldon, I'll start with you. What are the expectations for this team?
Well, I think the expectations are going to probably be lower around the country than they are here in town. I think, they have only 4 scholarship players back from last year. And of course, one of them is Darius Days, who decided to come back after putting his name in a draft. They're going to be, it might take a little while for them to gel, but obviously the talent is there. I mean, the group he's put together, I think the expectations are high around here because people are more tuned in to knowing what they brought in, what they didn't. And as we were kind of talking a little bit before, John said that it's going to be hard to figure things out right now because of so many players left, so many players transferred across the country, not just LSU, not just the SEC. It was a crazy year for transfers. So it might take a little while to gel, but I think they're going to have the expectations are high.
John, where are you at with this group this year? I mean, again, a lot of new guys, but the 3 transfers, Adam Miller was highly touted, played a lot at Illinois. Obviously, we know Xavier Pinson comes in playing a ton of minutes at Missouri. And I love the kid at Cincinnati, the Eason kid. I think he's got a ton of potential as well. And then you got Darius Days as kind of that one holdover, the only guy who averaged more than 4 points a game last year at LSU.
Well, and then Murray and Reed, the 2 freshmen, are going to be really good as well. And I've seen them work out 3 or 4 times. I agree with Sheldon. There's a lot of new players. I think the expectation level in Baton Rouge is high. But one thing about Will Wade, he doesn't back away from expectations. In fact, he creates more expectation by the way he describes the team. So I still think LSU is a perimeter-oriented team, even though Reed is a 6'10", 6'11" guy, but he really likes the perimeter better than he likes his back to the goal. like last year. I think they're perimeter oriented. What I have seen in watching them work out, there's a better ball movement, a better player movement. I think this team has a better chemistry about it. I think the team a year ago was more manufacturing plays off the bounce. I think this particular team is going to be more in terms of going up and down the floor, sharing the ball a little bit better. Will likes this team. He likes the personality of it. And I think with any coach in the SEC, I think LSU is going to have a better team than a year ago. But I also think 3 or 4 other teams in the league are going to be better as well.
Yeah.
So you could have a better team and not necessarily show it up in the win column. So I think that the coach that's able to put together a collection of new players the quickest and get them to play together and gel at the appropriate time is a team that's going to really stretch itself and probably win this league.
All right, Sheldon, you've got the pulse locally of this team, right? And Will Wade. Nationally, I think the perception of Will is so different nationally than it is locally, right? I mean, nationally, a lot of people look at him, all the allegations, the NCAA investigation that's still going on. And frankly, it's cheater, cheater, cheater. What is it like there with the fan base with Will Wade?
Well, with the fan base, they love him. I mean, somebody came up with a Twitter account called General Wade, and they've had a lot of fun with that. And they post things about, about the investigations and all that. But the people here are just waiting to see what's going to happen. I mean, until something happens, they're not going to jump off the cliff or jump off the roof or something like that. So they're going to wait to see what's happening. A lot of them, think there's something brewing and something's going to happen. But a lot of them are just saying, hey, let's worry about the season. They're not going to fire a coach before the season. Well, they could do that if they had to, but that's not unprecedented. But I think everybody's wanting to just see basketball, and then they worry about what's going to happen later. And that's kind of what's happening around here. If the allegations are true, it's going to happen, and if it's not, it's not going to happen. So,
and if he gets hit with an allegation of a level 1 or a level 2, they could fire him with cause, correct?
That's in his contract, yes.
Right. I mean, so
his amended contract.
Yeah. I mean, listen, John, it's level 1 is a little bit tougher. It's not hard to get a level 2 violation. We know that. Like, I think I went to an Ohio State practice a couple of weeks ago, and I think as a media member, you're not allowed to go to practice. That might be a damn level 2 violation. Who the hell knows as a media member promoting a practice? So it's not going to be hard if they want to get rid of Will Wade. They probably will be able to at the end of this. Are you surprised at the way Will's been able to handle all of this with again, nationally, the firestorm that was created?
Well, the way to handle it is the way he is handling it. Just go about your business, coach your team, worry about the things you can control. Don't worry about the things you can't control. And it really shows you the state of the NCAA. This has been going on for pushing 2.5 years now. I mean, really. And I think there's a cynicism out there, a cynical view of the public now toward the NCAA, like it wasn't when I was there, 15 or 20 years ago. If I'd have had something like this happen to me, Tim Floyd and I joke about it all the time, and Coach Brown even, if we'd have been recorded with something, they'd have probably ran us off in 48 hours.
Yeah, you would have been gone.
It's a different world now, and I think Will's handled it really well. He hadn't skipped a beat. He's kept his head up. Yep. And to me, an allegation to me is like a tree falling in the woods. Did it make a noise or not? And
yep.
long as you don't see it, or the NCAA gives us no official letter of inquiry, it's all noise to me. Yep. And I think Will's done a great job in handling it and pursuing it and coaching his team and worrying about the things that he can put his hands on.
Yeah, I've said the same thing, and people come at me about this, but I've said, listen, until you have actual proof that anybody paid, like a conversation is one thing. John, you and I know this, right? How many conversations did you have throughout your career that you had to placate an AAU coach that said, hey, I want this, I want that. Yeah, we got you. We'll take care of you.
Well,
right?
It's like years ago when if I would have had every conversation recorded with some conversations I had with AAU coaches on the phone, it'd be a comic strip. You know what I mean? You'd say, no, you didn't. Yeah, I did. So it's like when Don Beasley was confronted by the NCAA years and years ago at Georgia, they said he offered this guy a car or something, and Coach Beasley says, "I thought it was a helicopter." So you don't really know until it's actually proved. So I think Will's done a great job in coaching his team and doing the things that are necessary to put it in a position to be, the top 3 in the league.
I mean, 38-14 over the last 3 years in the SEC. 38-14 with everything that's gone on over those 3 years. It really is remarkable. Now, a lot of people say, well, the only reason is because he got the players because he cheated, this, that, and the other. The bottom line is the guy's done a great job coaching. You knew he could recruit. I first met him when he was assistant at Harvard, and we drove out. We met halfway. Actually, he came all the way to my town. We met, I think we ate in an Applebee's. And I knew right then, I mean, relentless. And that's what I don't think people give him, Sheldon, enough credit for is Will Wade. I honestly believe if you look at the top 5 hardest working head coaches in the business, I think you can make a case that Will Wade should be in the mix.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to say like John, he's relentless at what he does. And he makes sure everything is, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed for every game. I mean, his game preparation going into the game is unbelievable. And just the way he goes about coaching a team on the sideline, that thing, that can't be discounted. It's kind of difficult to say what would happen, if he didn't have these 5 stars. But, I think at the end of the day, you still have to coach and you still have to make sure you get things done the right way. And I think Coach Brady would kind of, agree with that you can't just roll the ball out on the court. You still have to coach him, and you still have to coach the game, and you still have to, do everything that you have to do to make a team successful. And I think he's done that in his 4 seasons here. And going back to you talking about recruiting, I did a big story on him when he came here, talked to a lot of people about, that worked with him, coaches that, he's had relationships with, AAU coaches and high school coaches, and they all talk about how he was just a student of recruiting and from the beginning, and that's all what he went out and did, and he recruited a lot.
John, do you feel like he's almost like a younger you? Like he's brash, right? Like you were brash. You didn't give a shit.
No, I can't believe you can say something like that about
right?
me.
But there are some similarities.
Yeah, well, he does it his way, and like it or not, that's the way he's going to go about it. And I think what he's done is he's changed the way the game is. I mean, the game now is a ball screen, perimeter oriented, penetrate, kick, shoot the 3, drive the ball, that type of game. And he coached. I made the joke all the time. Tremont Waters would have left me at Christmas, but he was playing for the right guy in Will Wade. Same thing as last year, So I think he's got a way about him offensively that attracts players. They like to play the way he coaches it. He doesn't get really upset about shot selection. He lets his best players kind of manufacture off the bounce, and that's what players like today. Yep. I was much more restricted, but in terms of personality and doing it his way, he and I are similar in that regard. And you got to give a guy credit to handle everything, as we talked about, that he's handled and kept that ship going in the right direction. Yeah. That's his personality. And this portal thing with him, that's right up his alley.
Yes.
I mean, he can wheel and deal and get this guy, let this guy transfer. And Sheldon, when I was at LSU and a player would transfer, it'd be headlines. Nowadays, players transfer in and out, and they don't even write about it anymore. So it's just a different time. And I think with the transfer, no penalty transfer and go anywhere, and the portal, it's opened up a whole new game of recruiting, and Will Wade has adapted to that, and he's done quite good with it.
Sheldon, what do you worry about with this team this year? I mean, again, a lot of new guys, as John said. He's seen practice a few times. The perimeter is strong because the perimeter is really where the experience comes from for the most part, again, and the talent, frankly, the talent between those 3 guys I mentioned, Miller, Pinson, Eason. and you got Darius Days. So you really could throw out 4 guys there that have a good amount of experience. So you're not nearly as young as you may look on paper with all these freshmen coming in.
I think John was right about how, they're going to be a perimeter oriented. That's his game. And I just wonder about the gelling. Like I said earlier, haven't seen them yet, so can't tell, from my point, what they look like. But I've heard a couple of comments come out of some people, and that's his game. I mean, he's going to want to be perimeter, shoot the 3, like John said. He does all that stuff. Up tempo, kind of, they lead the SEC in field goal percentage almost every year. Not lead, but in the top 2 or 3 every year. They're in the top 2 or 3 in scoring. That's what attracts these players to his program. He lets them have, free reign, not free reign, but
A lot of free.
he lets them do what they do. And, he wants to make sure he gets field goal percentage and make sure they shoot free throws. And that's 2 of his biggest things. Free throws is maybe one of the top things, because if the old saying goes, if you make more free throws than the other team shoots, you're doing pretty good. And they do that quite a bit, as John could tell you. But, the tempo, and if they score 80, 84 points a game, if the other team gets 81 or 82, he doesn't care. I mean, obviously you have to care about defense, but this isn't John Brady's 62 to 58 games. As John will tell you.
Thank God, Sheldon.
As John will tell you, those days are in the past at LSU for now anyway. But if he wins 85 to 81, everybody looks, the defense was terrible or whatever.
Right.
He does not care. I mean, he wants them to play defense, obviously. But if he can outscore them, that's his game. He wants to outscore you. He's going to outpace you. They don't rebound very well. They don't, win a lot of rebounding, although they do offensive rebound well. They're one of the top teams in the country, offensive rebounding. And that's one of the things he always says, that if we could not turn the ball over and give ourselves a chance, just throw it up on the backboard, we might have a chance to get a rebound and get a cheap basket. And that's what he bases his whole offense on. Just don't throw the ball away. Give us a shot. You got 1 out of 2 chance to make it. And, that's his philosophy. And if they score 84, 85, and the other team's got 83, that's fine with him.
John, you've been to a couple of practices, as you said. Yeah. This kid, Efton Reid, comes in with a ton of hype. Again, young bigs, you never know what you're going to get. What have you thought of him so far from talking to the staff and watching him?
Well, I don't think he's a pogo stick athlete like, let's say, Miles Swift, Brandon Bass, those guys who just are Tyrus Thomas that I coached, that jump up over the rim flat-footed and touch the top of the square. He's not that, but he's a skill player. He's really prefers the perimeter more than he does the inside, which really is a pick and pop sort of 6'10", 6'11" guy, which fits perfectly into what Will Wade's philosophy is and his approach to offense. I watched him practice 3 or 4 times. And I walked over to Will, and I told you I like the flow of this team. I just see some little more ball sharing and a little more unselfish play, a little more team play. I walked over to Will, and I said, look, I've watched you practice for an hour and 15 minutes now. I think you're better defensively now than you were all of last year.
Already.
Says, wow. Yeah, already. And I think when you try to defend in pickup games, you've got something you can work with. And I think he's got 4 or 5 players, particularly Pinson. He comes from a defensive-minded guy now. And then this Miller, he's athletic enough, and he loves to guard. He's up into the ball in pickup games. So I think defensively, if he's just a little bit better than a year ago, he's going to still score 83, 84 points a game. And if they play a little bit better consistently on the defensive end, you got a shot now. But then again, I'll preface that, I think the other 3 or 4 teams in the league, Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Auburn, I think they loaded up too. So it's going to be an interesting, exciting year in the Southeastern Conference in basketball.
Yeah, and Kentucky's going to be back. I mean, let's face it, Sheldon, they're not going to be the Kentucky team we saw a year ago. Where do you see, give me both of you guys, your best guess, because that's what it is. Let's face it, these days with all the player movement, it's a guessing game for the most part. where do you see this team fitting in the league and maybe NCAA tournament wise at the end of the year?
Well, LSU is the only school in the SEC that has finished in the top 4 and got the double bye in the SEC tournament all 4 years that Will Wade. Well, I'm sorry, the last three seasons.
Right, the NIT is first
They
year.
were 8
right?
and 10 his first year. That's correct. But they're the only team in the last 3 years in the SEC to get a double bye in the tournament. You know, I can see a tough battle, like John just said, with Arkansas is coming. You know, Tennessee is going to be there. Kentucky's going to be there. And Kentucky, you know, they had them last year where everybody said, well, Kentucky's down. They're not going to stay down for long. I mean, you know, that was an aberration of all aberrations, probably, as John would probably tell you. I don't see that happening again, maybe for another decade and a half or so. But, you know, it's going to be tough again. And Auburn, like he said, Auburn kind of laid low last year. They kind of took their medicine. They weren't in the SEC tournament. I think they're back, and I think it's going to be a tough road to get that top 4. But I think they could be an NCAA team. I think they could get to the Sweet 16 again if things fall right and they get a higher seed. They're not seeded 8th or 9th like they were last year. And if they get a top 3, 4 seed, I think they'll make much better off, obviously. But I think they could get Sweet 16 if everything goes right.
John?
Well, here's what's going to tell LSU season, I think. Well, injury-free first. You got to no key guys can get hurt, obviously. But check this SEC schedule out. Open up at Auburn, Kentucky at home, Tennessee at home, at Florida, at home against Arkansas, at Alabama, and home against Tennessee. Those first 7 games are brutal, my man. You know, we ain't even got to Ole Miss or Vanderbilt, any of those people yet. But his first 7 games are going to be critical in how it starts for them. And barring injury, if they can escape through that with 6 wins or so, I think they got a shot.
6. You would have taken 4 of those first 7 back in the day.
Well, let's say 5. They can get with 5 wins.
You'd be celebrating with 5, right?
That'd be great. And then I think they're a 4th place team for sure. And depending the number of close games you can win, and Will talks about it all the time, it's a 5-minute game. And if we can win the last 5 minutes, we got a shot. If you can win your share of close games, I think this team can finish 3rd, possibly 2nd in the league.
All right, listen, before I let you go, John, I have to get, because again, he was maybe one of my favorite kids ever to cover, and I covered him through AU ball. So I remember his mother running up and down the sidelines yelling, "That's my baby." Give me your favorite big baby story before we get going.
Oh, look, I don't know about one in particular. I tell you what he was. He was a personality on our team. But that Final Four year, we would walk through airports in Atlanta, wherever we would go, and they would scream his name. "Hey, big baby," and scream. And he had a Shaquille O'Neal similarity kind of look and play about him. And I think he knew that, and he played on that a little bit. But I'm going to tell you, this isn't a bad thing about Glenn, but this is when our team crystallized that year. We were having a practice, and Glenn wasn't working as hard as I thought he should. And so I dismissed him from practice. It was the last 15 minutes or so of practice. I just told him to go to the locker room. You know, it wasn't quite that nice, but so when we got back in the locker room, I shut the door and wouldn't let him in the locker room. And so he stood outside, and Tyrus Thomas said, "Coach, don't worry about Glenn. We've known him." That team was so close. You know, they'd known each other forever. They grew up playing with each other. He said, "Don't worry about Glenn. Talk to us. We want to hear what you got to say about practice. Don't worry about Glenn." Well, Glenn was outside the door, and he heard Tyrus say that. And about 10 seconds later, he knocked on the door. And I opened the door. I said, "You need something? What do you want?" He said, "I want to sit in there, Coach." I said, "Come on, sit down." Never said another word about it. But after that, that's when we went on the road, and we beat Arkansas in our first game. We won 7 out of our first 8 in SEC play. And that moment right there crystallized that team. And from that point on, we were really, really good.
You had a hell of a team talent-wise, a hell of a team personality-wise, and their personalities meshed so well together. I mean, that was the part of it.
They was of our top 6 players, 4 of them were from Baton Rouge, 1 from Denham Springs, 10 miles down the road. And then the captain of that team, Daryl Mitchell, was 35 miles down that road from St. Martinville. So that team grew up together, playing against each other. And, they're all from Louisiana. And there's something about that Louisiana kid, when you put that purple and gold on him, and it's got LSU across of it, he has an extra little stuff about him that some other guy may not have, like a Kentucky player going to Kentucky playing for the Big Blue. Same type of thing. And that's what that team had. It was talented, but the chemistry of it and the camaraderie of it really carried us through some tough times.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. John Brady, Sheldon Mickles. Thanks for bringing the heat a little bit on LSU here and giving us as much as we could possibly know going into a season in which, again, 9 new faces. So there are a lot of questions with this LSU team, but certainly if there's a track record, it's certainly there for Will Wade and what he's done over the last 3 years. So make sure, again, you follow Field of 68 for all your preseason content. We've got the top 50 rundown. And thanks again, guys.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
No problem.